John's born in Epworth, England. 1707, Charles, the younger, precocious younger brother, is also born in Epworth, England. Their mother, Susanna, had, what, 10 children? 11 children, something like that. 1728, John Wesley is ordained as a priest at Oxford. 1729, Charles Wesley founds Methodism. He founds the Holy Club at Oxford. 1735, Charles is ordained in the Church of England. The Wesley's mission in Georgia happened 1735 and 37. 1737, the first hymn book from the Wesleys is published, focused on John Wesley's works and translations. And interestingly enough, it's published in Charleston, South Carolina. And interestingly enough, it's John Wesley's hymns, not his brother. 1738, John and Charles Wesley have separate conversion experiences within several days of each other. So while they were ordained priests in the Anglican Church, they didn't find Jesus until well after they were ordained. 1739, the first Methodist societies are formed. Between 1739 and 1743, we know that Charles preached to over 150,000 people simply because he kept a journal during those years, and he would write approximately how many people were at each one of his sermons. 1766, the first Methodist societies appeared in the U.S. 1769, a Methodist in New York built the Wesley Chapel.
And up at Young Harris College, they have a Wesley Chapel.
1769 to 71, John Wesley sends lay ministers to the colonies, including a guy called Francis Asbury, who will become the first Methodist bishop in the United States. 1773, the first Methodist conference was held in Philadelphia. Now, back then, it's still called the Methodist Episcopal Church, because they hadn't officially broken away. 76 to 79, actually, all Methodist preachers loyal to England, they fled to either Canada or England. Only one stayed behind, and that was Francis Asbury. So that kind of put him in a strong position when the war was over to kind of take over Methodism in the United States. 1780, John Wesley edits and publishes collections of hymns for the use of the people called Methodists, based mostly on hymns by his brother, who by that time had emerged as the greater of the two in terms of his hymn writing. 1784, John Wesley officially breaks with the Anglican Church. He wanted to ordain priests and bishops to send to the United States. They said, you're just a priest, you can't ordain anybody. You have to be bishop to do that. He said, okay, so I'm not a bishop anymore in the Anglican Church. I'm a bishop in the Methodist Church, so I'll just ordain you. Bye.
I bet he read some of Henry VIII's.
1785, the pocket hymn book for the use of Christians of all denominations is published by John Wesley, which is based 90% on the hymns of his brother, Charles Wesley. Charles dies in 1788 and John dies in 1791. So they're on the list not just because of Charles's hymn writing, but you can see the wonderful hymnals and music compilations that they published. Charles Wesley wrote 8,989 hymns, making him the all-time heavyweight champion of the world in terms of the most hymns written, narrowly beating out David Crosby, who only wrote 8,500 hymns. John Wesley edited his brother's work and also acted as his music publisher. And John Wesley used to make comments in the borders around Charles's songs and say, I don't think this is theologically correct, or this is a clumsy rhyme or something. So that's what you have brothers for, is that you're the most famous hymnist in the history of the world, and your brother still makes
the biggest critic.
Nasty comments about it.
I could see your brother doing that.
Charles Wesley, primarily the author of lyrics rather than songs, was constantly writing. He would jot down lyrics as he was riding from town to town to preach. And he'd be on horseback and he'd be writing down lyrics on the back of a piece of paper. There he is. This is a magnificent stained glass window.
Ooh.
At Grace United Methodist Church in Atlanta, which is where you heard Jenny Monroe singing Amazing Grace. Charles Wesley wrote a number of hymns that we still use today. Charged to keep it alive, and can it be, if if you were paying attention, Barbara played And Can It Be as the prelude today. She told me beforehand she was going to do it, so she did indeed. Christ the Lord is risen today. I mean, you feel like breaking out in song when you see these hymns. Come thou mighty King, come thou long expected Jesus. Hark the herald angels sing, la la la. Love divine, all loves excelling, which was sung at the 100th anniversary of this church in 1937. Oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing. We sang that last week at the homecoming. Rejoice, the Lord is King, ye servants of God. Many, many, many more. Hymns published in the 50s and 60s and 70s oftentimes might have 50 Charles Wesley songs in them, and they might have 35 Fanny Crosby songs. During their lifetime, John and Charles Wesley published 56 collections of hymns in 53 years. And in this case, John was the more aggressive in terms of publishing hymn books, which he was doing primarily for the new Methodist Church. But this is the main reason the two of them are in the top 10, along, of course, with Charles Wesley's songwriting abilities. John Wesley published the collection of hymns for the use of the people called Methodist, which contained over 1,000 hymns. And in the preface, he noted some important things. He said that this hymnal is large enough to contain all the important truths of our most holy religion, whether speculative or practical, yea, to illustrate them all and to prove them both by scripture and reason. And this is done in a regular order. The hymns are not carelessly jumbled together, but carefully ranged under proper heads, according to the real experience of real Christians. I think this is pretty important because a lot of Christian music today, especially praise music, is not written to provide those things, and it's not written to contain all the important truths of our most holy religion. He goes on to say, as but a small part of these hymns are of my own composing, I do not think it inconsistent with modesty to declare that I am persuaded no such hymn book as this has yet been published in the English language, and what other publication of the kind have you so distinct and full an account of scriptural Christianity? And it would be decades before, for example, the Sacred Harp was published in the United States. John Wesley himself, he wrote some hymns, although they're not as well known as his brother. Author of Life Divine, How Happy is the Pilgrim's Lot, We Lift Our Hearts to Thee, and Servant of God, Well Done. And Wesley also completed at least 40 English translations of hymns, mostly from German, and he had learned German from the Moravians on his return home from America in 1737. So that completes our look at the Wesleys and their contribution to the music of Christianity.